we'll look at it real quick. We'll get that out of the way. And then Steve, you'll come down, right? Okay. Please forget the roll call. Okay. Good evening. It is April 19th and it is 6:38. We will begin with roll call, starting with John.
John Brunza, mayoral appointee.
Justin McGregor, 7th District and Secretary.
Kenya Middleton, Mayor appointee, Vice Chair.
Mary Ann Callahan, First District.
Michelle O'Loughlin, 5th District.
Marilyn Austin, 6th District.
Dawn Sacconi, 2nd District.
Jacob Kumpan, Council at Large.
Okay, to begin with, can we look at the minutes of the last meeting? Are there any comments? Corrections? If not, may I have a motion to approve? Michelle?
I'll make a motion to
Maybe we have
approve.
some questions.
Oh, hold on. There are questions.
I just want to make sure. I asked Stephen a question and I didn't see the response to it today. Sorry.
No, that's okay. You can ask. He'll
All I
ask-
did about the minutes was when we were having our meeting 2 weeks ago,
Mhm.
I remember that the gentleman from the public came in and had discourse back and forth and you answered his questions. And I didn't know if that should be recognized in the minutes or not. You know, that wasn't a public session, but it was interaction with the public. And I thought maybe it should be noted in the minutes.
Good question.
Stephen said,
But he did not identify who he was or where he lived.
he did say he was a city resident on the west side.
Did he?
And Steve's answer was? It really wasn't relevant to what we were discussing. It was just a sort of an outside glitch, but it was a good question.
Okay, I
Just
just
in
wanted to
case.
make sure because it was interaction that was caught on our recording. So
It was
I wanted to make sure the
democracy in
minutes
action.
reflected. it
Yes,
needed.
it was true democracy in action,
Yes.
which we wouldn't want to tell the feds about, but
I suppose you could just say, citizen came to the meeting, although it was not a public hearing. There was an exchange.
because it was
Okay.
such a short exchange and it didn't have anything, had no bearing on what we were doing.
Right.
You know, it
I
was,
just didn't know because.
it's almost as though the tree fell in the forest and nobody was there to hear it, you know,
Yeah,
kind of thing.
I just didn't know if, because like you said, it was caught on
Video.
the
Yeah.
audio.
Well, let's see how closely we're watched to see if somebody comes and says, oh, your minutes don't match your video. Highly
There's one.
unlikely.
There's one,
There's one more.
someone out there.
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
All right, then I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the April 5th meeting. No,
No. So the motion is without amendment.
without amendment.
Okay. Second. John, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
You abstain. One abstention and seven ayes, 7 ayes. Okay. And just think that was the easiest part of the meeting. Now we're getting into the hard part. Okay. Steve, do you want to start and kind of refresh us where we were last?
Certainly. So first things for just the bookkeeping purposes, you should have gotten, you have an agenda, you have the minutes, and then you have 2 additional table 1s. I did send out the table 1 request to applicants and said, if you have nothing to change, don't worry. If you have to change anything, change it. And so these are the 2 that came back. So you have to assume these 2 are the changes, but I didn't notice until later their names aren't on them. But the one that says Broome County Youth Bureau Runaway Homeless Youth Act in one of the program funding sources, that is Catholic Charities Teen Transitional Living Program under ESG. And then the other one is where you see Broome County Office for Aging, AOP memberships, that's what gives it away. That's Action for Older Persons. That's for the senior insurance program. So with those being done, now we come back to the budget. Now, last time you guys had kind of hammered out ESG, you had hammered out home, you had started working on CDBG. I would say maybe, I do not have salaries, unfortunately. So your best bet is probably put an estimate number in things that are salary based, and we'll come back to that when the mayor's office and myself sit down in the next few weeks. Hopefully by then I'll have more accurate numbers. But you may want to start on this one, and then, so you'll have the rest of CDBG, you'll have capital, and then you'll have service programs. Now, service programs are always the most contentious. So my suggestion is start with the first page here, then work on capital, and then work on services.
So I had a question. I know last time, you said we were gonna get a follow-up. I know you sent out some of the emails and we received some of them. There were like some questions, I think.
Yeah, that's these here, right here. I also sent an email. The other question I had, this is the only thing in my notes regarding Urban League, where they're gonna be at. I sent an email to, if you did not get a follow-up on that email, I did send that out.
Yes,
did you
you
have
did.
to- Okay, so she did respond to it. Okay. I couldn't remember. I'm starting to lose my memory.
There was another one.
Yes, in reference to that email, I believe that her response was that the location is at the Two Rivers Community Center.
In JC, yeah.
That's, yeah, I wasn't familiar with where that is, but you're saying it's in JC? Is
Yeah.
that near the circle?
That's the former Blessed Sacrament at the circle.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, they don't, yeah. Who's that? Who's that for? City of Binghamton. Achieve or something like that? Oh, is that the one, the camp? Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, and they supplies transportation, right?
Okay,
Sure.
yes.
Fair housing, 5,000 has to be in there.
I don't think we even touched the stuff from last year. So, I mean, if you guys want to put it in there, we can. The goal was to do it in the fall and it just never happened. So there is money from last year for it still.
Oh, so we don't have to. Okay.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, then put 0.
Okay, any thoughts? I think we need you to kind of guide us.
Okay, so the next one might be code enforcement. As I said, I do not have a highly accurate salary number here. My recommendation would then be a quarter of a million, similar as the last few years. We can always move funds around later if that doesn't work. But I still have a little bit more time. Hopefully I can get some of this done before the mayor's office comes up with final numbers. So in the meantime, my recommendation is a $250,000 for code enforcement for now.
Is that's the maximum?
That's the
There.
maximum just because we kind of were guessing. So for the last we'll say 30 years, well, this program is almost 50 years old. There's been a lot of guesstimation on salaries, and HUD has now said you cannot guesstimate salaries. We want to see timesheets. We want to know you worked 2 hours on CDBG. We want to know that you worked for code enforcement, that you worked at a property, that you went to a property that was dilapidated and you had resources available to the dwellers of the property. So that's why it's changed. So we have to be a little bit more accurate going forward. But for now, barring everything else, $250,000 still sounds pretty good.
Are you talking 250
250,000, yep.
even, not the?
Yeah, just 250,000
Okay.
even would be my recommendation.
Does anyone have any objection to that?
That's for salaries alone? Like,
It's salary and benefits. So basically, when we pay someone from the city, it's basically done as an hourly calculation of all that your salary and benefits. And then they have to track on their timesheets for everyone but code enforcement. and then code enforcement has to track it. Well, they don't track it. It's more of their outcomes that we track. So if they spend 50% of their time code enforcing what are considered CDBG quote unquote eligible locations, then 50% of their total salary would be reimbursable.
I must be confused because I thought this was supposed to help, not pay salary.
Well, if
I
you
mean,
if
I
you
didn't think they were,
yeah, correct. I mean, it's up to the city, obviously, but let me just put it this way, their salaries will be paid. Whether it's going to fall on the taxpayer, the city taxpayer or not, that's a separate issue.
well, wouldn't it make sense it would be the taxpayer? Not that I am a taxpayer and I don't really want to pay for it, but this is stuff that is aren't they grants that are given to us? They're
Yes.
Supposed to help other needs of the city?
I think the theory was that because code acts very strongly in areas that are low and moderate income, that subsidizing them with CDAC or with CDBG money helps them do a more effective job in the neighborhoods that need it the most. Whether you could argue that, I'm sure we could all argue that, but
I mean, yeah.
but again, if we do that,
yeah, it
then
is. I just think it doesn't make sense, but that's okay.
We're
I
foisting-
just want to understand that.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much the theory behind that, isn't it, Steve?
I mean, yeah, I mean, the salaries are going to be paid regardless, whether it comes out of the general fund, which is footed by the local taxpayers, or if it's coming out of a grant, which is, well, technically also paid by taxpayers, but more evenly distributed, or more widely distributed. I can tell you that I don't know if it happened before the Ryan administration, but during that period of time, they loaded a lot of employee salaries onto the CDBG grant. And we basically have been picking it off slowly since then, removing things that aren't eligible, removing things that people aren't tracking correctly and properly. So it's been whittled down over time, and that's where you're at now.
The other thing to keep in mind is that we have caps, percentage caps on various aspects of this grant. And we could take money out of one thing, but we can't necessarily put it. It's kind of complicated, isn't it, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, the big cap you guys will probably be addressing more than anything is going to be the service program cap. Because that's kind of the one everyone wants to focus on is the service programs, but there's a limit to how much you can put into the service programs.
So theoretically, even if we were to take that out of that line item, we couldn't put it where we'd really want it to go. So it provides the service. And John,
I think I do support the 250,000 in code, just because, we spend a lot of time talking about our aging infrastructure and our aging housing stock. And it seems to me that code, yes, there's a bottleneck with the courts end of things, but if we theoretically, if we pull back, then the courts are not going to dump any more resources in to clear that bottleneck. So, I mean, I agree that the mission of code enforcement would fit right in here.
Steve, have the new people or the expansion of the code department, does our funding help that?
That's a really difficult question to answer. That would be more of a question for the head of code enforcement. I know they're having trouble just on the face of it, hiring code enforcement staff. There was a discussion of hazard pay, which depending on how you track it could be also covered. But I know right now they're having problems even filling the positions because of risk to personal safety and just low pay.
And you need a lot, I'm sorry, you need a lot of things. I guess like when I was looking at it, there's a lot of things that you do have to have before you can get the job for code.
Job requirements.
Job requirements, yeah.
So. Deb. I'll also let the record show that Deb Hogan has joined us.
Thank you. Steve, this is just a refresher. Can we place any accountability on code enforcement for the areas that we are in our target area, because I'm incredibly disappointed in so many different facets. You just drive around and there's just garbage. And being a warrior of Center City, you kind of get a little bit tired. Is there any way to place, I know it's going to be looked upon as another piece of paper, but is there any way that we can place it? Is basically my question.
So I brought this up in a previous meeting that it's code. The effects that code can have on the city are kind of beyond code enforcement's hands. Code enforcement gets called out, they do inspections, they do citations, but after that, there's nothing they can do other than go out and see if things have been fixed or not. The focus point on enforcement and forcing code compliance is with the court system. And on top of that would be with the penalties that are determined by the city council and the mayor's office. So it's kind of beyond code enforcement. Code enforcement can say, you have a car with no tires in your front yard, you need to move it. We'll fine you if you don't. And then it goes to the court system and the judge dismisses it because the last minute this person says they'll move it, they don't move it, and then ultimately they get a fine for something that they think is worth it, that they could keep doing it. I mean, it's difficult to blame code enforcement for all the code issues in the city. It's a much larger, much more nebulous problem than that. And code enforcement will say this over and over again. They can't do anything that the courts won't allow them to do.
I guess I'm trying to be a little bit more simple. And this is where it's the connection with code enforcement, DPW, and potentially parks. If we're just looking at getting garbage removed, there is X number of days of which you have to do that. If you don't do it, then I believe there is legislation in place that would allow DPW to come onto the property, clean that up, and then put that onto the tax bill. It's very similar to the high grass. And that's where I would like to see to help address this problem when we get to, or if we've already been at parks, that is, it's all interconnected, but I'm looking at the very simple code issues that have the most impact visually within our neighborhoods. For example, for people coming in and out of going to the ball game, that's supposed to be a new enhancement area for development. But if we could just start with the garbage and the high grass, I think the look and feel of our community and our city would have a much better effect on us, the residents, who just get so tired. But for the people that are visiting us the first time, it's a good impression.
I respect that totally. I think that's honestly, it's a city council issue at that point. If you want to target a specific thing hard, then city council has to be willing to step in and give an appropriate penalty. And the court system has to be set up in a way that they're, the landlords aren't, or not land, it's not always landlords. I know we always blame the landlords, but the property owners, that they have to actually face a penalty that's high enough for them to be willing to act. So it's code enforcement are kind of just the guys in the field saying there's a problem. They don't really do much other than that. They can't. Their hands are tied. They can only say, pay this fine and go to court or pay this fine. And the person goes to court and then it's out of their hands. If they don't pay the fine, it's out of their hands. They can keep going back over and over and over again. And I've read the code enforcement things of them going back over and over and over again. And they do inspection after inspection after inspection, but they don't, it's going to sound weird. They don't actually enforce the code. They just see if it's been done correctly. It's the judges, it's city council, it's the mayor's office determining penalties for failing to apply those what needs to be done. That's where the issue is. So, I mean, I honestly don't know how you would hold them accountable within the CDBG budget. This really sounds like a city council thing.
But it does beg the point that as we deliberate and as we think about the things that are happening in our city, it's incumbent upon all of us to go back to the person who put us on this committee and say to them, we had this problem. We find out that code is only the identifier of problems and cannot really fix them, and put the onus back on each of our council people and the mayor to do something about this. And I forgot to ask as we began the meeting, but I will be going to city council to talk to them about our recommendations. And I would like from all of you, if you have specific points, I just wrote this one down. This is something that I will talk to city council about when we go. I will tell them about this discussion. But if there are other points that you want me to specifically discuss as I present to city council, please let me know. Okay, you can send them to Steve, and he can send them to me, however you want to do it, whatever you want to do is easy. And I will make sure that they will hear about this discussion when I present, okay? So, moving on. Is everybody okay with the $250,000 in the code line?
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree with John's point with that.
Okay,
The next one on the first page would be the lead and asbestos risk assessment. We've actually been using the money. I don't know if you remember, it's been zero for a while because they kept pumping like tons of money into this every year and it wasn't getting spent. We actually are getting to the point where we might need to put a little bit more in. So my department suggested 5,000.
5,000,
5,000.
5,000.
And that's the lead safety that basically for any of our rehab programs, they go through and they test for lead beforehand. Rehab work is done and they test for lead afterhand. So it's that kind of method. And that's mainly to meet HUD requirements.
And how many houses, how many inspections would $5,000 get you?
Well, it depends on whether they fail the secondary inspection, but I would say roughly 500 per.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so. And that would be sufficient.
I think so.
Okay. Everybody.
Yeah, then put that number in. If
Okay.
we have to move it around, we will.
Okay.
The next one will be the senior home repair program from First Word Action Council. They did put in an application. I'm not sure what they asked for, probably 85,000 again. It should be in your packets.
That's what they've been getting, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And that was an amount that was determined, I think, if I remember correctly, by either the mayor or city council.
Yeah, I think for the longest time, you guys were doing 35,000.
Yeah.
And then a few years ago, Jerry Willard said, I really could use more. And they're starting to do some larger projects like, I don't want to jump back to ramps because they don't do ramps that often and that because that other agency's asking for that as well. But things, I mean, they do some simple things like light bulb changes. Yeah, that sounds it sounds like a minor thing, but when someone is 95 years old and living alone, they're not climbing up on a chair to change a light bulb. It's things like just recently doorknob change, faucet leaks, and then occasionally there's a bigger one, replace a door, replace a window fully. And that's what the funding's used for. And now that it's difficult to give accomplishments from the past few years because HUD came in and said our environmental process for the senior home repair program was wrong. And we had to completely revamp it, like totally ground up. So now we have to go through and approve every individual project. HUD was wrong about some of the stuff in the environmental review, which threw a bunch of people off the list, which was very insulting. But that's been corrected. And so hopefully now we're on a much smoother process now.
Okay, everybody agree? Put that in?
I don't know what they asked for in the application. I didn't look. Was it 85 again?
Yeah, Jerry's nothing if not consistent.
He's consistent in some ways.
When it comes to money, though. Okay, 85. Are we going into another round of major demolitions?
Well, the mayor's office said 200,000.
Okay, so he must be planning a new round.
We did a bunch this year, and I'll let you guys know if I didn't tell you before. One of the firefighters that used to be in my pipe band, so I'm on good terms with him. And I'm on good communication now so that when the demo properties come up, we can let the fire department know, hey, we're going to demolish these properties. And if you didn't know, the fire department will go in and practice using properties to be demolished. Now, assuming the property is safe enough, but they practice entering the properties, they practice, hauling people in and out. It's good training. So it's a good little synergy of using a property that's going to get demolished anyway. Then after demolishment, you have an empty field there, and then that goes into the side lot program where we might sell it to the neighbor to possibly just use as a yard. I don't know if we have hard restrictions on those things, but I think for the most part, most of them just turn into larger yards for people.
So if the fire department burns the house down, then all we have to do is pay for having it hauled away?
I mean, they're the fire department, they stop fires. They don't usually start them, but yeah, no, they.
No, under the practice program that you just suggested.
Yeah, they just wreck the place. I mean, honestly, that's what they do. They just destroy the place.
So what you'd still need money to, complete the demolition is what I'm.
Yeah,
asking.
no, the demolition crew is not charging less because a bunch of windows got knocked out.
Okay.
That would be nice, though. That would be really convenient, but no, they don't.
Yeah,
They
how
still-
much would they charge to take a bunch of ashes away?
Yeah,
You know?
Actually, they did that years ago, where the Weiss Market is on Penn Ave. There used to be a lot of old houses there. And the fire department did, because my husband was working then. And that's exactly
They
what
burned
they
them
did.
down?
They use those houses for training
Controlled burn?
and
Cool.
extrication and, it's very effective.
Yeah. that's
So
something to-
it's a good thing.
So we like the $200,000. With a thank you note for the fire department.
well, that just note, that's what the mayor said to put in.
No, yeah,
Alright.
well, we want to agree with the mayor,
Okay.
okay? We want him to know that we agreed with him. Okay. Next.
So that being done, you guys are still looking at about 487,000 left. And that will be on the next two, capital. I did not put in the streets or parks at the streets that DPW and Parks Department put in here. I'll leave it up to you guys to say which programs you specifically want to target. So you need to say which streets you want to rehab, which parks you want to rehab, depending on what those guys presented to you. The green is what the mayor's gonna do. I think I mentioned it last thing or last meeting. I'm so tired. I just got back from New York City. The Freedom Trail project from the Tubman Center at BU. So this area, if you don't know, historically was really a big Freedom Trail thing going from here all the way to Owego. So they're going to do some kind of, I think, statue. I don't know if it's Confluence Park or on the along the Riverwalk there at MLK Stage or what. I'm not sure the exact location, but Mayor's office wants to put 100,000 in there. They want to renovate the senior center floors at the First Ward Senior Center. If you didn't know, we did actually do the HVAC rehab there last year. So we're trying to focus on rehabbing that. And then they're also going to put a ball field in at Valley Street Park. I just saw this is 60,000. I'm going to laugh because I guarantee you it's going to be more than that when it comes down to it. I've done ball field rehabs before. They're expensive. But that's what the mayor's office wants to put in there. So then here is. I'm so tired. Broome County Council Churches put an application that was for the ramp program. Roberson Museum is looking for an additional energy efficiency and safety upgrades for 12,000. And then SEP is wanting to rehab the parking at the Hamilton House. I think that's senior and disabled. Is it just low income? Or is it senior and disabled?
I thought it was.
Again. Okay. But senior is one of them, right? I know sometimes when they do like the ramps and stuff, they kind of extend that up to people that need it. So that's their request there. So I would say start with this, figure out if there's any parks projects you want to put in or street projects you want to put in. Specifically, if you want to, now is the time to focus on a street in an area that you really want that street to be fixed based on what DPW asked for. And the same thing with parks. And if you guys think of projects that aren't on here, but we could reasonably put together something, like I think you had mentioned it before last year and it didn't happen, was the Webster Street Park. Brandy was a big advocate for, I think they did end up putting lighting in that park, but they didn't.
Not Webster, it's right on the corner, Walnut.
Walnut, okay, Walnut Park. I think they put lighting in there, but I don't think they did the, like, the other things that were requested, but they did a separate lighting project, sort of outside of this, so. You guys can certainly come up with some other capital projects. I know last year the mention was for additional ADA access on the roads, or on the sidewalks. And working with DPW, I can tell you that there are projects they could just do go through and renovate, like the curbs and sidewalks, but they generally like to do this when they're doing the milling and paving at the same time to make them a little bit more even, so. Go.
Where do you want to start?
I know one thing, I don't think any more money needs to be allocated to Rec Park for the tennis courts that they keep redoing and redoing and it
Yeah.
still isn't functional.
That's a fact. No, nothing.
No.
They're. No, I read today that they're, saying that, it's being used for everything but tennis.
Yeah.
I-
They're basically turning it into a dog park the
a
last time
dog
I was
park,
over there.
and then I guess like when it rains, it kind of. It's like the third time they did this, right?
Okay, now that we've ruled out Rec Park, what can we rule in? John,
So I actually, I went to Hamilton House to check out the parking lot. And I left
Tiny.
thinking, this is better than most parking lots.
Oh, yeah, it's it's nice,
Yeah,
but it's small.
And it's, you know, my understanding that it was low income housing there. And I saw some very nice and expensive vehicles in the parking lot. So I left raising my eyebrows about that project. I'm not sure.
okay,
I'd certainly like to dump the money into parks and streets.
Waiting for food to come back. I was just saying the Ramp It Up program, when he said that he had to carry somebody, like the parent was carrying, they don't have proper access to ramps and stuff, so I was a little sad about that. Maybe. That's definitely needed. I don't know,
my concern was the cost per ramp.
it's expensive.
I think their estimate was rather more than I think other ramp projects have cost. That was my concern.
For which one?
Ramp It Up,
They said $20,000 a ramp,
Yeah, I felt that was expensive when he said that number.
because I know that they're put up the cost of budget for that. And they make very nice things. So, okay, there's two concerns there.
With those concerns, would we drop the funding entirely or cut it back?
Well, that's what we have to discuss. We also need to ask Steve if we decide not to fund at the rate that they were asking, where can that money be put into? Perhaps another street or a park.
Quick jump in before I come back fully into this conversation. Everybody, when you're talking, make sure the mic's are on because we have to record it.
okay.
If
So
that's what you saw at the Hamilton House,
Well-
I would agree on moving that to streets.
part of the Hamilton House, I'm just refreshing myself and going back over to the bottom. Their proposed project. I've been at the lots and I think they're in decent shape. But part of it is also for handicap ramps in and out of the access of the building, so from the parking lots. So where their lots themselves may be adequate, I'm not sure if the ramps are. So if we're not doing the full 20, maybe something towards a ramp. I don't know.
They don't do a breakdown though.
No, there's no official breakdown. It talks about handicap ramps, Chapin Street entrance to a degree of 1.5 inches to maintain the final grade. Then there is then it's talking about paint and it's like for $20,000, I'll come out there. I think it helped them. Yeah, handicap and other lines. But the ramp issue had me was the only thing at Hamilton House that concerned me.
I-
Chapin, isn't it?
St. John.
It's not, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
St. John
16.
and Chapin?
It's 16 St. John. So it's closer towards Riverside Drive. 16 St. John Ave. It's around the
Green.
corner from. No,
No, that's Lincoln.
No, it's off Riverside.
Hamilton House is on the west side, just off of Riverside.
So if we could
But
perhaps.
is it
give them-
between St. John and Chapin?
I'm sorry, what?
Is it between St. John and Chapin?
You want it to be. on
No,
Riverside.
St.
I feel
John-
like I read that and I'm
St.
looking
John
back
is-
and I'm not reading back.
They won't move it just. for
St. John is a parallel street with Chapin.
Handicap ramps and Chapin Street entrance.
that. Okay,
Yes,
So it goes.
it must be
yeah.
between them.
So we got your room. There.
I was like, I know
Fine.
I read something about Chapin. I was
So,
like.
so technical question, Steve, if we
Yes.
decided to do partial funding for something like that, which is our concerns are the ramps. Can we stipulate that in our recommendation?
I think so, because I think we're gonna, the same thing with the ESG where we're gonna force them to be like, this is salaries. I think you could stipulate that you're funding a section of whatever their request was.
Okay.
So what was the request for?
The ramp.
So I'm gonna say ramps only. Wait, talk about Hamilton House
Yeah.
and how much?
Well, we haven't
we
discussed
haven't
that yet.
discussed it.
We're going
A
through,
fraction of it though,
Yeah.
because
because they're asking for 20 and what would you think?
4 to 5, maybe.
What?
Because they're just, I believe they're paving these ramps. I don't think they're building.
Ah.
Because the ramps from the parking lot kind of go like this up to the door.
So they're not gonna be smaller.
Yeah, I don't think they're building. I think they're leveling and paving. You're a concrete expert.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get up, like trying to get a visual on it on a map so I could see what they were. So it's not an entry ramp, it's like a parking lot ramp.
It's I believe it's an entry ramp going from the parking lot to the Chapin Street entrance of the building.
It's,
Okay.
yeah,
I
it's a
thought how he
residential
said it there.
access ramp. isn't it?
Because my notes have ramp to back entrance is what my notes from their meeting said. Oh, no, I was gonna look up a picture of facility from the street.
So, yeah, if their entire request was 20,000 and they were also talking about repaving, they're probably just fixing it. They're not gonna put a new concrete ramp in
Yeah.
and repave for 20K. No,
So
not on
in
that
your expert
contractor.
opinion, what would be a good ballpark figure to, if we were just to fund that?
Just to fund the repair for it.
Those ramps.
Let me
I don't
see.
know if you can see them.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would say like. I think the number we were talking about earlier, we talked about like 5K, I'd put it like 6. You could fix it for that.
Okay, with that stipulation. So 6,000 with the stipulation that would be for the ramps?
Mhm.
Okay. Roberson?
Oh, wait, did you guys come up with at least a preliminary number there?
Six,
Six.
6,000
About-
from our resident expert.
Damn.
Thanks to our resident reconnoiter person.
Yes.
Okay. And Roberson was Robertson. That's how he said it. He said Robertson. Mr.
Robert. Oh, yeah, he did say Robertson. Yeah.
No, we did not fund them last time, right?
Yeah,
We did.
The mayor funded
Mayor?
them this year for $100,000 of historical stabilization. And I think you guys funded them for a separate parking lot issue, but
did we
they,
do the lighting? We did.
I think you guys did, but I mentioned it before, they were one of the agencies that jumped too
Right,
quickly.
Right.
And so they were disqualified from being able to use that. But what we did end up using was their money for the stabilization of the sidewalk. They have these giant like bluestone panel sidewalk in front of the building, and these panels were about to collapse and they were worried for public safety. So we were funding them to replace that. So that basically it was going to be the lighting project. They messed up. So we switched it over to another separate project that was of high urgency to get done.
Okay, and this money is $12,000?
Whatever they requested. I thought I wrote 12,000 out.
Well, what if we tried to give them 6? So what if we gave them half of what they're requesting towards, they can use it towards this safety upgrade and lighting?
I don't follow. I'm
They're
sorry.
asking for 12, but we don't have to give them all of that. We can try
No,
to
but-
just give them a portion.
But is 12 reasonable for what they're asking to be done?
Well, I don't know if they just got 100. What did you say they got, Steve? from the
They got
state?
$100,000 for the sort of historic stabilization that they have to do.
And that's for the house?
That's for, I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So this would be separate from that?
Yes.
So-
They are definitely getting $100,000 for the historic thing. Was already done in the mayor's budget for this year. For
That's
the existing year that we're in right now.
That's cool, because there's so much mahogany in that place, you could die.
So this thing would be for their lighting. That's what they're asking for,
I'm
right? In their presentation, they're asking for that lighting again.
Which was something that they, we said it was okay for them to do, and it was a legitimate project. Are you saying now that we want to cut back on their ability to do the lighting? Is I'm trying to follow your reasoning.
Well, I don't want to give them nothing.
Right, but if we gave them the $12,000 that they're asking for, they could then do what they wanted to do last year, right, Steve?
I think they had already started that project. So this is a separate energy project that they did.
Okay, so the clarification for what they're asking us for is additional
Yeah, it sounds like it's additional
lighting.
energy and lighting.
Last
Energy
year was
efficiency and
for the
safety upgrades.
mansion, wasn't it? Uplighting, energy efficient uplighting and lighting for the mansion. And this year it's the parking lot and walkways.
Well, last
thought
year was
last
the
year was
parking
parking.
lot.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yes.
So what are they saying here? This, what's in the application? Did they specify exactly where?
Cause he said it was dark, like back there.
Yeah,
and,
this is
you
for
know.
the parking.
I guess
Yeah.
they must not have had enough money to finish the parking last year.
Yeah, because there was a question about the lights and the stairwell that went up to the
Right.
bridge at the end of Front Street. That's
Yeah.
the discussion
Yeah.
we had last year. So based on the fact
Was
that
that
they,
last year already?
No,
Yeah.
was it?
No, that
Time
was
flies
this
when
That
year.
was this year.
no, we talked about the parking.
We were in here. That was this year.
Yeah, because he's asking for a spot. He asked
Oh.
for it last year. Same thing.
No.
I don't remember it during the meeting last year on their computer. I remember him sitting right here this year asking for it. Wasn't it this year?
Yeah.
I think these are two separate but similar parking lot improvements.
Yeah, he
Okay.
was talking about parking lots.
But last year was paving the parking lot, wasn't it?
No, it was lighting.
It
for the
was
parking lot.
lighting. Definitely.
And the energy upgrade was that they would put in LED
Yeah.
lighting instead.
In the
So-
whole front, they did.
So we had two lighting discussions, I guess.
Oh,
Okay.
boy.
So,
Well, I guess why I said half, because I'm trying to spread the money. I'm
right,
trying to
well,
spread
that's the other
money.
question, Steve. If we don't give them what they're asking for, what you might have projected, where can we put the rest of that money? Are we talking maybe another park to be done or another street to be done?
Wherever you want. Capital projects have no cap, so you can put the money wherever you wish.
Okay. How does everybody feel about Michelle's suggestion? Does anybody,
Giving them 6.
One question before, so so this money is staying on this page then of the spreadsheet or,
No, you can,
Does it-
this is pulling, there is no cap. This impacts the first page.
okay,
You can put as much, up to what the amount you have
yeah.
into
480,000.
capital projects, but you will also have to put money into, you don't have to, but there's also public service funding as well, which is capped.
Okay, but so this is coming out of the 480,000.
Of whatever was left over. Yeah, if
Yeah,
you go back to the
okay.
initial budget, we're looking at 481,000. So you've got capital projects and service projects, divvy that up, unless you want to go change any other line.
no, we don't want to do that. Nope. No, I'm gonna go home. Any thoughts?
We're gonna,
Deb,
And just throwing this out because I thought I had an idea of where we were going. Roberson is also the welcome center for the city of Binghamton. Because I think that is one of the things that they're not listing here. But if you're saying that we can do our wish list, I'm just throwing this out. Can the playground, it's the rubberized chunks that go under the playground equipment. Could we say that Columbus Park could be a wish list for this sheet that we're working on right now? Is that
Abs-
what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to put, if, do you know, is the condition of the flooring and the matting at Columbus Park deteriorated?
Not good.
It's not good.
And
Did-
plus we lost out on the center, which would have been taking care of all of those items.
Okay. Did Pat ask for any when he did his presentation?
Not that I remember.
no,
Okay. Certainly, yeah, if you guys want to put that in there.
so what you're suggesting is that we, under parks, we add that.
But right, but I'm also trying to just stimulate discussion because I was just a little bit confused
You're
that
not
we're
alone.
trying to reach up to this $480,000. And I love
Well-
the Columbus Park idea, but I'm just trying to understand. do
Well,
we
I
need
think what
to
we're
go-
trying to do is go line by line and figure out, the.
That's why I
first three-
apologize. I was
No,
just
no,
trying to.
no,
give an
that's fine.
example,
But let's figure out this first three items and then we'll go down to streets and
But
parks.
are we able to keep the $12,000 in, or is that we're trying to save 6,000 for for example, a wish list? That's where I apologize. I'm confused.
Well, no, we're talking about, I think at this point, we're talking about what we want to fairly give to Robertson for the project that they're asking for. Which would then, if Michelle's suggestion is it would free up 6,000. Which we could then discuss as we discuss streets and parks, once we get these three items out of the way. So how does everybody feel about Michelle's $6,000?
Well, then fully fund.
No, that's true. We will not.
Do you give a little bit to everybody or do you just fully fund one or two things? It's just a.
Or even say no
philosophical
to
thing.
some people, yeah.
So put the full amount in and then just as we add up the numbers, if we want to take away from some project
that-
and
Sound good?
that's fine.
Okay,
That'll
let's
make
do
it-
that.
Fine.
It'll
Let's-
make the process easier.
Exactly.
smoother.
And that affects a lot of people.
Okay.
Yeah,
they-
that's
I think
true.
They have 10,000 visitors or so that they've estimated. so-
Well, the other thing too is he talked about the fact that people use that as shortcuts. So there's that issue too. I mean, it's their liability, but still.
Yeah,
um,
Safety.
I'd say
Exactly.
let's fully fund it and
Okay.
see where it goes from here.
So the last one is the Council of Churches.
I'll
Or
let you
ramp-
guys know there is discussion at the mayor's office end of things of giving them more than the 20,000. This application is not really built for that kind of program request. That is something that's very similar to the senior home repair program. So limiting it to $20,000 through the application, which the application says nothing more than $20,000 instead of going to the mayor's office directly. Maybe artificially pushing down the amount that they'd be eligible for. So just letting you know, the mayor's office is reviewing, giving them additional money beyond the 20,000. Whether they're going to do that or not, I do not know.
And that would come out of this money.
CDBG, yeah, CDBG.
Okay. Any thoughts?
In that case, should we keep the full 20?
That would be my suggestion.
I said if the mayor's office is looking at giving them further funding, should we keep the 20,000?
I want to stress when I say the mayor's office is looking at giving them funding, I don't mean the mayor's office is thinking about giving them funding. I'm saying they asked for more and I forwarded the email. So it's at that stage only. There's nothing saying the mayor's even thinking about it, just letting you know that they are requesting additional funds beyond this application.
Okay, all right, I understand.
I have a concern, and perhaps I misunderstood the gentleman who presented, who did a great job, but, I think he said that it was $20,000 would pay for one ramp. Was that correct?
I thought it was 4,000, roughly 4,000 per ramp is what my notes said.
Okay,
But
Yeah, that
that's
makes-
still a low. You know, I want, I want the ramps, certainly,
right.
but that's a lot of money. And it seems to me that it's coming from an organization with deeper pockets than some of these others might have.
I will tell you this, and this isn't a promotion of it. I have to stick strictly neutral. But if both this program and the senior home repair program are funded, when the senior, I'm going to make sure that Jerry understands that when something comes up for a ramp to get done, recommendation, send it over to Broome County Council of Churches, so we can divert their ramp requests to basically broaden the net of people requesting that. And that would apply whether they're getting 20,000 or if the mayor's gives them 50,000 more or something. Whatever.
Okay, but it was 20,000 for a number of ramps, not just one ramp.
Yeah.
Okay, so, based on that, do we want to put the $20,000 in?
I can't vote on this. so.
You're recusing or you?
Yeah, I am refusing. I work for them. so,
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh. I'm honest. I would say
Sure.
yes, yeah,
Of
but
course.
I work for them, so
No,
I
that-
can't.
And we love you for that.
Thank you. I love you
Just,
too.
just, even with the recusal, you can still vote on the overall budget.
Okay.
So what do we want to do, guys? Do you want to put the 20 in now? And as Michelle says, let's see what we've got down the road.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's do that. Which brings us now to,
Did you guys want to, so DPW requested streets? Did you review the street projects that they requested and determine if you want to fund any streets over any other streets?
now, I think it needs to be pointed out again that the woman who does this, she does take some time and look around, and her recommendations are based on,
Oh, with Bernice, so I don't know exactly. There's multiple processes. It involves people calling in.
Right.
It involves the last time they did mill and paves. I think it involves the number of times they've had to go out and do pothole filling. All
If
of those
it's
are
turtled.
factors. If they can time it when they're gonna do utility rehab underneath.
There's
So
a term that Bernice uses regularly, and it's turtling of the street. And that is when you look at the street and the pavement is in like little squares and it's all cracked up and it's
Mm.
squares and it looks like the top of a turtle. And when it gets to that point, it can just start to fall apart and the mud and water can wash it away. So when a street gets to that, they usually bump it to another level.
so, yeah, the reason I asked that question is because I want us to know that there's a lot of thought that goes into this list, and I, for one, would not want to presume that I know more than Bernice does.
No,
I would also just comment that on that same note, they do highly prioritize doing mill and pave at the same time that they're doing the concrete. And that's extremely important. Like if you're gonna rip it up for utilities in 3 years, like the lifespan of your pavement goes down by half. Like you really, so if you're starting to go out of order with streets, it can get not as much bang for your buck.
You're bucking for extra pieces of pizza tonight. You're gonna get more pizza than you thought. No, that's a great point. So how do we feel about just accepting the list that Bernice gave us? Yeah, okay.
So it's just basically all the requests for streets. Does anybody have a total on that?
Paper.
Last year. Yeah, I think budgeted, the CDAC recommendation and the mayor's final was the same, 251,000 went to the streets. which we should be working on right now, actually. Now, I will say, unfortunately, sometimes this changes at the last minute, so this is a sort of tentative, let's really try to do these streets. So, but I can't guarantee you that at the end of the day, when we start the milling paving next year, that these actually will be the streets. And sometimes they get condensed, especially if there's an overage. They might put all the money into like one project that over budgets, so. Or that comes in way over budget.
But it'll still be a street within the eligible districts.
They have to be eligible, they have to be
So one way or the
resident,
other.
primarily residential, primarily LMI residential streets. So
Okay.
Bernice gives me a list of like 200 streets and I get to go through and put each one into Broome County GIS and do little mathematical calculations to determine if it's eligible or not for every single street.
Um,
I hate doing it. No, this year, like the current year you're in, they're doing 251,000. Right now, that money is going to go to Holland Street from Clinton to Prospect. And I can't remember the other one. Stanley? No, I can't remember the other one. But yeah, the Clinton to Prospect one's going to eat up most of that money. That's a big, long stretch of road.
I would go
It's
for
steep.
the same amount.
Is it bad?
Oh, it's like this.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's just steep. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
But
try
it's-
stopping at the top of the hill to make the turn.
Yeah.
keeping
You
the
can
car
see where
moving.
everyone like grinds it out. I was there because um. What's the one that goes up the hill the other way? Up towards Bosse's.
Glenwood.
Glenwood was closed, so I had to shortcut to
went that way?
Holland and went
Oh,
up that way. And the car in front of me, the gravel is so loose or the pavement so loose that he spun his tires to get up and going, and the front of my windshield was just like.
You should go up McGat. Safer. No, it's safer. And there's a light. So
I forget that Glenwood's under construction and
I know it's annoying. 'cause it
going
was
down Clinton
last
Street.
year. So does anyone have this year's figure? Because I must confess, I forgot my folder again.
I don't.
While we're waiting for that, does anyone have a ballpark figure for what Columbus Park thing might run? How are you about playground soft rubber stuff?
What do you mean? I'm
Well-
all about it.
She was saying that the soft stuff under the,
Dollar figure.
Yeah.
was it those?
Under the playground equipment, it's
Equipment.
rubberized.
Yeah, so when they fall off, they fall on something nice and soft.
I think she wrote down $154,015
For,
for 49. Describe the CD proportion and how it was determined. We are estimating $154,015 in CDBG funds,
okay,
which is less than this year.
yeah, considerably. So can we plug that number in? Okay,
All right.
now we're on to parks, guys. And the park recommendations come from Mr. McGinnis,
Pat McGinnis,
Yeah.
yes.
and they are also based on what he considers as needs. Eligible needs.
Yeah, whatever he has requested. I don't have his thing here. Oh. No, that's not it. Yeah, I don't have anything from him in here. He presented on the same time, if your notes, he presented on the 1st of February. Oh, wait, no, he didn't. He didn't show up. That's
didn't.
why.
He didn't show. I have nothing.
Oh, well, now, naughty, naughty. I don't think he ever showed up then, did
He
he?
didn't show, that's what parks, right?
Yeah.
He didn't show,
Oh,
he didn't make it, actually. I saw him at,
yeah, I don't have him. Yeah, it looks like he never came. We probably got an email then from him. But-
Okay. Really? I might, so I don't know.
295,000.
What's the cap on the other one?
CDBG services cap total is 312,000. With the mayor pretty much has 100,000 in there. So the mayor, that you have about 200,000 left there.
To put in if you
Put
want
into
to-
services if you want to push the services cap. But I will say the spiel I ever do, every year I do with the services, pushing the services cap is risky because if the service agencies spend all their money and other things don't happen, like capital projects on the other end, that can skew it when we do a final calculation, when we do our CAPER report. And if the city in a period of time has spent more than 15% of its funding it's spent on services, then we have to pay the difference back to HUD from general fund.
For purposes of estimation, can we use last year's parks figure as a,
Sure,
as
just in
a
a
sort of
general
a
park.
placeholder, if nothing else?
Parks. And last year we put in 138, 441.
Okay, and what does that do to the human services part?
There's 156,000 left in the line and that would be still within that would be within the cap if you spent all the rest of it in the services line.
So you're saying that we have $156,000 for the next group of things we're going to be talking about?
If you don't put any more into capital and you don't mess with anything else in the CDBG line, you have $156,000 you can fully put into the remainder of the services programs.
Okay, so for the sake of argument, I mean, that's pretty much what, that's in the ballpark of what we always have for that particular portion of the grant. Do we want to move forward using those numbers that we have now on that page?
I think so. I think that's probably the
That
right
work
thing to
for
do.
everybody? And we will make sure that we stipulate that we'd like Columbus to be considered as well.
Well, I mean, you could put all of it into Columbus Park and then we could figure out from Parks Department if that's a viable option. If not, they have other parks projects they could work on. But you guys could definitely say, we want to fix the Columbus Park project. We could, the Columbus Park playground. For all I know, that's actually something that Parks wants to do. They just didn't present it to you guys.
How about Ross Park? That's in bad shape.
Ross Park is not eligible, unfortunately.
So
Because
if
of its location?
Ross Park is not eligible because of the zoo connected. It is considered a regional park. And because it's a regional park, it does not qualify for LMI. Unfortunately. Not under LMI. You could do things like ADA upgrades to the bathroom, but that's about it.
Okay. Good to know.
so, how do we want to? Do we want to just put an asterisk and say that we'd like Columbus Parks playground to be considered?
Yeah, I mean, if you guys want to, and I can obviously bring that up to Pat.
Well, and that'll be something that I'll talk to city council about too.
And also I'd like to have a, note that for parks, meaning I think that the most in need parks should be addressed first. I don't think they need, I said it earlier and I was being kind of flippant, but I do think that Rec Park really doesn't need to spend more money on the tennis courts over there. If Sherry Lindsay Park needs something, I think Sherry Lindsay Park should get something.
Steve, is there any way that we can get what Pat would have given us had he shown up? So that I can, take something to the city council meeting
Yeah, I can ask him for a parks
and
thing.
explain to them that our recommendation is based upon the fact that we did not have.
Yep.
And that will be a point that will be driven home as well. That we need cooperation from the city.
I can tell you this year's parks projects, and I think a push they're having is to do what Deb had suggested. They've actually been doing it at several parks where they're doing they're removing the old 5R and they're replacing it with that new rubber matting.
Right.
to allow more children to be able to access the playground equipment. Because you can, it's stronger, it's more stable. Kids can still fall and not hurt themselves. I mean, I guess a kid can hurt themselves if they really want to. Kids are like that. But it's the rubber matting is a special type. I think they used a bunch of it at the one at Rec Park, the one that got burned down and then rebuilt. That special rubber matting there it's really good for kids. And then if you're a kid in a wheelchair, you got crutches or something like that, you have more access. You can play with the playground equipment with the other kids too.
Okay, so moving on, if that's okay with everybody, let's go on to the human services portion. Yeah,
Thank you for the
seriously.
consideration.
Okay, so this number up here, I'm just leaving that up here, is the amount that's left over the amount left over, assuming you don't move anything else around. So that number will go down as these red boxes fill up.
Okay, and that number is reflective of the mayor's
That
having been
number,
taken out.
that's everything in this line. So you have 156,000 left to put in this line.
Okay. So how do we want to attack this, guys?
John, last time, did you mention that you had some preliminary numbers that had like some impact? I know I'm kind of just putting you on the spot.
I don't have preliminary funding request numbers, but I did do calculations based on which one of these, the money spent per participant.
Mhm.
That was one of the ways that I analyzed things. I also, as I was explaining to a couple people earlier, I looked on social media. I wanted to see what their engagement with the community already is. What it seemed to, if they have the outreach in place to make some of these events or projects worthwhile. So I did take some notes on each of those. So I can chime in with that stuff as we go through it.
How about if we start with kind of run down and see which ones we think we should absolutely fund? Have
I like that idea.
start with what we all really all agree that we should fund without question. And I'll start with the one I feel strongly about is the Action for Older Persons. I think they do a lot for they get a lot of bang for their buck. They service a lot of people.
Agree. I like that.
I
one
would
too.
agree.
Okay, why don't we do this? If everybody can talk about the agency that they think is, worthy of funding, like Michelle said. And if we don't hear any disagreement, we will assume that Steve can plug that number in for the sake of, moving quickly along. Okay, so Action for Older Persons is one. Anybody else? Okay,
So I went and checked out that Makerspace project and walked through it. And I was really impressed that they help. They teach people how to weld, how to electrical, a bunch of different ways to work. And I talked to them how they were going to do their application, and they were like, because I don't want you just to fund it to like low income and stuff. And they were like, no, we want to get people here that want to learn and that are going to come. It was just, I was very impressed with it. It needs a lot of work down there. It's nothing to really look at. They have a small space, but they're teaching kids a trade, not kids, 5 to 85. You can go.
Amazing.
I thought I was impressed. I don't know. I feel like they're helping the community by teaching, and this is their first time asking for money. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
okay, and they were asking for,
$19,440.
okay. Hearing no objection, we will put it into the slot.
I'm
Anyone
not
else?
100% sold on that one, I have to say.
Okay.
But we could put the money in and then if we need to move our numbers, we can, correct?
Okay. No one else feels strongly?
Go,
Yeah,
oh,
go.
a new one?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought we
Yeah.
were still talking about that.
No.
Okay, the Binghamton Housing Authority's summer and after school programs at Carlisle and Saratoga. Carlisle, is an east side, housing development, and it is, in desperate need of something for those kids to do,
Okay.
especially in the summertime. They're kind of cut off from the rest of the east side. Bolin Park across the street is minimalist at best. And having something that they can get involved with, learn computers, do whatever their program is going to assist them. Gym time, there is a gym there at Carlisle. I think should be funded, keep the kids with something to do instead of just running up and down Broad Avenue and getting into trouble.
Okay. In 12,000 into that spot?
Their request was 20,000.
I'm sorry.
I blacked out that one thing because I have no idea what it was, and I just want that. to be confused.
How about mothers and babies? I think they service a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's how I felt about Vine too. I thought that they, when they came to present and they had the children here that worked and they said how well the program really helped them out. So I was really impressed by Vine.
I will second that. That was actually the one that I wanted to bring up as well.
Yeah.
Also something that's kind of outside the scope of their proposal, like that's a nonprofit that's like investing, like they purchase property in the city and they're building in the city. And I think that's pretty, it shows that they're kind of around for the long term. And I think that's important.
Yes, I also liked how the kids said they learned a skill, like they learned a lot.
Yeah,
for
those
it.
kids were impressive. Deb?
Everyone, Vines is in Center City, which is just a couple streets over for me. Great project. But what I would like you to consider is they get grant monies from others. And the resourcing, we just need to take a look at that. If there's anyone to fund, but a little bit less, I'd recommend in this particular category, just due to their access for other funding. We can loop back around.
Can I just interject with that? Then that would be the case for everything because every single program here gets funding for everything. So I mean, like every other program, Urban League, Boys and Girls Club, I think every single person, every single program here gets grants and different fundings for everything. So, I mean, I know what you're saying, but I'm just saying that every single program here, they all get different types of funding. And we do see that here and through that too. That
For me, the
gets
sustainability issue is the hot button. Everybody wants to fund. So that's the one I have the reservations on. And I will fight to not have that 100%. Phenomenal program, do a great job. And that actually started with the DOJ Weed and Seed with the young people doing the summer job. So there's great history, but just if we need funding for something else, that's the one I would recommend bringing back just a bit.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what was the name of that program that you said?
We didn't see.
Aid which
didn't
we
see
help
this.
bring into the city.
Oh, it's an old project.
It's not on here though.
No,
Oh,
no.
No,
she's-
it was
she's
back in the
talking
90s. I helped
historic-
organize and research
Oh,
that program.
Oh, okay.
We didn't see.
It brought $1 million into the city.
Awesome.
Okay, before we go too far afield, mothers and babies, anybody have a problem with that one? Okay,
No.
let's put mothers and babies in there so that we get that done.
What are you guys doing with vines? And
Well,
what
we're
was the
gonna-
other one?
we're
about-
Because this seems to be a larger discussion, I wanted to get, because mothers and babies and vines was brought up at the same time. Let's get mothers and babies in there, and how does everyone feel about, Vines is asking for $10,000.
Yeah, 20,000.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Here's the request
Thank you.
column. Yeah.
I'm looking at the wrong column. Any thoughts on,
And just so you know, you have about 77,000 left.
All
Is
right.
it just 15?
Deb?
Did just 15 just at this point free up 5?
For Vines?
15?
15 for Vine. How does everyone feel about that? Because if that was the only contentious effort that kind of, or contentious one that kind of meets what you were saying before, where you wanted everyone to make a recommendation for one you could fully fund and then come back later.
Let's go on to something that we all can get behind 100%. Mental health, response
I've
provider.
got one. I liked Achieve. You know, I like that they attended the public hearing, they provide transportation. You know, and as they explained, funding, this is for counselor positions. Funding those positions will greatly expand their ability to take on more participants. I was moved, I found that very compelling.
And I think I'm pretty sure they might use campers that were probably campers that got older, like, kind of helps them out too. Yeah.
Okay, hearing no substantive argument, we'll put that number in.
So where are we at? How much?
You have about 52,000 without having to start moving things around.
Yes.
I cannot guarantee the mayor's office will fund the opioid case manager for 45,000. They did not put it in their request, but they have done it the last few years. But maybe they're open to less.
Is that the Fairview recovery?
Yeah, that's the opioid case manager.
And you said previously that's been funded for 40?
Yeah, it's always been sort of a pet. It's like the other green ones. These are ones that are kind of, I don't want to call them pet projects, but they're projects the mayor's office really supports. So that's why like Boys and Girls Club gets so much funding because they really support, the mayor really supports them. The previous mayor too. The CARES backpacks is another one the mayor strongly supports. So the mayor's office didn't mention Fairview Recovery, but they've done over the last few years of doing a straight up 45,000 regardless. I don't know if they'll continue to do that. I do not know. And similar to that is the Attain Lab. They've been keen on funding the rent for the Attain Lab, but again, they didn't say it this year. That doesn't mean they did. I don't know if that means they're not going to, or if that means they simply forgot to mention it.
Along that line, the Broome County Urban League, the after school and summer program, they just got that big $750,000 funding. It was just last month that was announced, so.
And Steve, you said you thought that the after school and summer program might qualify for the childcare, which was part of the requirement for that money.
I don't know, how would we know?
Yeah, I'm
I'm
not
asking,
sure.
no, I'm asking Steve.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know about that.
Okay, because that would be another consideration. Question, community policing is 0.
I think the CDAC recommended doing a community or the community policing. That was, yeah, I believe that's the overtime. The mayor's office didn't put any overtime for community. I think it was mainly because they had additional money from previous years in there.
And we can assume that's still the case.
I don't know. I don't have the numbers in front of me if they're going to use it up or not. They've gone through some issues. So the police department gets multiple grants from all over, including the feds. So their overtime patrols, which are CDBG eligible, are covered under multiple ones. We did finally work out with them a way of determining which ones are eligible for CDBG. So it could just be a matter of lack of administration, that they've not simply applied for the funds that they've been awarded already.
That what? Can you say that?
That they've
last
been
part?
awarded already in
Awarded
previous
already.
years.
Okay.
But that is police overtime.
Okay.
And I think the two areas I gave him the map. I think it's basically south side, east of, what's the main one that goes up to what's the one that goes by the hospital?
Oh, yeah, Mitchell.
The other side.
Park.
Yeah, I think it's the east of Park. And then the other section, I think might be, what is it? I don't think I gave a map to everybody. I just gave it to him. Oh, okay. I mean, we don't typically restrict them to say it has to be the bikes, but it's any type of overtime patrol. Has to be residential area. Primarily LMI residential area.
Are there
Well, if
any-
there's a X in that request column, then can we just leave that at 0?
I think X because they didn't apply for it. Wasn't the chief? No, it was, who was it? Detective,
Bidwell?
yeah,
Bidwell,
Detective
yeah.
Bidwell came and presented. So the X just simply means that it's not a formal request through an application.
Okay.
That's why it's the city of Binghamton. That's,
Are there any other agencies that we feel strongly about? Excuse me, funding?
Can we talk about the Noma Community Center?
Sure, we can.
I probably need some refreshers on that, but I've heard very good things about it. Does anyone else want to weigh in?
I was gonna say, I like how they do like their Saturday where they feed people and like people can come, especially on that side of town where they don't have, where a lot of people are struggling.
And I saw a lot of social media engagement
It's very,
with them.
they're
I
very
thought that
active
was dynamically
They're-
trying to reach out and,
to everybody.
the money would probably go to good use.
And they're always open. They always have like different things. I always be like, they have like like giveaways, like just anything. Their center.
So would you recommend the full amount that they asked for?
Yeah.
Hearing no objection, are we putting that in? Okay. Which leaves us how much, Steve?
32,000. You can give less than they requested. I will do the spiel they always do. Everyone will say, if you don't give us the dollar we requested, we cannot run our program at all. And then you come to them 2 months later and say, we can give you a third of what you requested. They say, I'll take it. So you can never ask the agencies, what is the minimum? What is the minimum is always as much as they can get. Always. We used to ask that question in the applications and you could just tell it was a meaningless question after a while.
Steve, can you please increase?
Again, okay, let me see if I can, let me hide the CDAC recommendation because I'm trying not to go off okay, is that better?
That's getting better, yeah.
I could probably get rid of, how about the
The far
location
right.
too? See if I can-
Yeah, thank you.
I just have to scroll up and down for some stuff, but yeah.
I'd rather have
Yeah, below MS is Safe Streets, Triple Cities, or Makerspace and Vines.
Is there any others that anyone feels strongly about?
Hey, that's my line.
Oh,
Wow.
Okay.
You're
when I
you're
got-
prepping for your
job
new role.
there.
Maybe
How much do we have left, did you say?
32?
32,000 without fiddling around too much.
if nobody had anything strong, I would. I think we talked about vines for a little bit. But if there's something else we want to put it in, I'm okay with that. But if there's, 5,000 we can spare, I think we should up it to their full request.
I would counter in Steve, the concern is with the Citizen Police Academy. I'm seeing that's an X, but Lieutenant Bidwell did make a presentation on that part of it.
like to speak on the Citizen Police Academy. I feel very strongly about that one. I would fight the funding because I don't think that it's worthwhile for the entire community. I don't think we're going to get much value out of it other than, more knowledgeable law and order watchers.
Okay, how about the American Civic Association? You think we could give them 10,000?
I remember their presentation and what they were saying that they did. They kind of helped a lot of people during the way and some of the fees, because of what she was saying, was that the fees are very expensive. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, for an application. So they were trying to just basically help along the way because that process is really, really expensive.
So you like that or you don't?
I do like it.
Yeah.
I was just recapping on what she said when she
Right.
presented.
Are you concerned the fees are too high?
It's
No.
what some people were concerned.
Yeah.
I can clarify this. That is not, my understanding is that is not something the ACA gets. That is money that is needed. That is the essentially the federal fee.
Yeah, every time
For applying.
somebody
Yeah, they don't have
applies.
that.
Oh, yeah,
that's
you're the
not-
specialist here.
Yeah.
the
Yeah, this part
agency-
I know about. It is not free to apply for citizenship or for permanent status in this country. There are fees that the government charges these people. What they're talking about is how they're talking about the cost of the application, not their cost. So,
But then she said that some of the money's used for lawyers.
right,
Yeah,
right.
people
Yeah,
to
you have
help
to have a
Yeah, you
lawyer.
have to have a lawyer.
You have to have a
Okay.
lawyer for the
Yeah.
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
So,
So if they have somebody who comes over and has resident alien status and they want to apply for citizenship, there are, things that need to be taken care of legally, and then there are fees involved. And I think that's what she was talking about. They help to offset that cost to
Yeah,
the applicant.
because they pay, but I mean, it's just to help them along the way to help them with the process.
Once
Yeah,
they're done with the process, they become US citizens. I want to just say that we had 33 new citizens registered to vote this week here in
Yay.
Binghamton that went through the
Yay.
ceremony.
Yay.
So some of their work is helping people get through the process.
yeah.
They came in with their stack of registrations that, we want to be.
It's really
registered.
heartwarming.
It's
yeah.
amazing.
They come in with their flag. I mean, once they go through the ceremony, they come in with their flags and everything because it's during the workday. So they come
Amazing.
right into our office. They've got their flags and their pins and they're just
I love it.
so excited to register to vote. It is fantastic.
Were any of them Ukrainians or Afghanis?
Yes,
Oh,
Um,
That's amazing.
the list of countries that they came from this year around the globe, it was mind blowing that many people from various places everywhere would find their way to Binghamton, New York.
It's amazing.
It was amazing.
And the process is not easy. I don't know, like it's a hard process.
well, I know because I know the head of one of the Ukrainian churches, and there's a strong Ukrainian presence in the area. So
That's amazing.
Well, I would like to see them get some money.
Yeah.
If not,
Okay, you suggested 10,000,
well, that's what we gave them last year.
right? But I
They're
mean,
asking for 20.
the
That
only
would
reason
be
I'm
good.
asking is so that we can plug a number in and then move on.
Okay.
Is
so 10 or 20.
10 is okay?
10?
What are you?
Well,
what do you
that
think?
that leaves us what, 22?
Yes.
So I think what we need to do is determine, are there any other agencies that we would want to get any money to? And then we can go back and look at what we've got.
See, Marianne, I don't see anything for park rangers, or is that part of the X? I apologize.
That's part of the Xed out on that.
The
line.
X just means that they didn't apply through the formal process. If you wanted to fund the Parks Rangers program, it would put money here.
How do we feel about that? Do we want to put money in there? No.
No.
I completely disagree
these
with
are-
that, but I let it go. The park rangers absolutely need funding.
But these are people that are in the parks and actually help to keep the law. They're peacekeeping force, if you will. They
And
are
they
people
also,
that,
their eyes and ears of
Yeah,
police need to be called.
they're people that make sure that everything that's going on in the park is okay, nobody's getting hurt, and then they contact the police. They contact the police if need be.
I'd be in
As an
support of that.
update, they changed it. They used to have like college kids and college interns. Now it is retired police officers.
So it's an added presence for the people that are accessing the parks. It's kind of like the security guy over at Otsonigo Park, you know, who used to just wander around. So do we want to put what we gave them last year? Which was what, 10?
Do you know which parks that they patrol, those rangers?
I think technically every park in the city. The way we did it for CDBG is we split the city into two halves and both halves qualify. So technically every park.
12?
12,000. So from Vines up to Achieve.
Join the club. We're gonna get people. Okay, any thoughts? We're close, guys.
What about I'm just thinking what's left over here, the Binghamton Adult Education. What does people think about that program?
That serves a need for a population that falls through the cracks. And while their numbers might not be high, I think that if you visited that program, it's a very good program. So, what'd they ask for?
12,000.
12,
He said they have 10 students at this time.
right. But these are kids that if they weren't there would be out of luck because they
Right.
age right in between the two programs that could help
Right.
them the most. So do we want to put 12 in there? And if we do that, Steve, where are we?
At like $32.
That's for,
Oh, sorry, $327. $327, not $32.
Sounds good.
do we want to add $72,000 to somebody?
$327.60 to something? Or do you want to fund another project by taking away from ones you're fully funding?
Do we want to give them a few more backpacks? Add that into the backpack program? They can buy what? 5 or 6 more backpacks?
I
would-
mean, the mayor's office did say 10,000, the mayor's I don't want to presume the mayor's office will say more or less,
All right.
but that's probably a good call.
I would like to take some away from the makerspace, take a little bit away from that. And
And-
add it up to something else.
What were you thinking of adding it to?
Let's see, up at the top there.
Oh, Urban League,
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
I
the
think
Attain
that's why we
Technology
went-
Center rent.
And the Attain Center is in Johnson City, correct?
And no, it's in Binghamton.
Okay.
It's on North Street. North and something. North and Murray?
I'm just looking to see how many.
Michelle, can I ask why you want to take the money away from the makerspace?
I don't, just to give some more to some. I wasn't sure that they serviced a lot of people.
No, we're talking about makerspace.
The makerspace guy, people down there, when I went there, they wanna put 35 more people into their learning. So it's basically $50 a month per person. So they're trying to get 30 to 35 people more in there.
So in other words,
pay.
if we give them money, they're going to actually offer scholarships to people who can.
Yeah, and they do train you, and the guy told me that they take certain tests and stuff, and they'll get the paper at the end of all this that goes towards their job, like a certification. Right, Jacob, you said you went through there, right? Oh. Okay. Okay.
Do you have any thoughts?
Full transparency, I visited there about, I think 4.5 years ago at this point.
Okay.
So it's still in its young
Yeah,
infancy stage. I think for people that are, yeah, I think the biggest question is like with everything else, if they can find somebody who's very interested in those types of programming, they have the space, the facility, and like the people to help kind of guide those people in learning those skills. Biggest thing is, is there 34 students here that can utilize that. But I'm comfortable with fully funding it. If there's, a stronger case to be made for one of the other ones, I'm open to hearing it though.
I was, oh, I'm sorry. I was a little bit lukewarm about the makerspace, but hearing that we have two members here who have been there and have seen it and are in support of fully funding it. I'm with you. I'm with you.
I want to thank you guys for taking the initiative to research those programs.
Yeah, that's very cool.
If you,
Go ahead.
sorry,
No, go ahead.
if you've ever been to any county or regional festival where they've taken their van, they have a trailer that they go out just to see the excitement on the people's faces that are in their program that come out to show what they're learning to other people to try to get them interested. It is a phenomenal thing. So if someone can go through their program and then get into some type of apprenticeship with one of the trades, it's a pathway to a very good living. And that's, if we can get 35 people into a job that'll give them a career, that'll give them a house in the city and whatever. And that to me, I think is money well spent.
And
It-
they,
it-
I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, well, thank you guys for clarifying because I didn't get that from that guy's presentation.
No, I didn't either. That's why I
Not
went down
at
there.
all. And
Yeah,
I,
didn't either.
did you, John? No, and
Yeah.
that's why I was like kind of
Oh.
negative about it because I thought,
I'm surprised because I did.
I don't,
I did see. what
thought
you-
it was more like a hobbyist, a hobbyist.
No,
place.
because
Some of the people who are teaching, I think
Yes.
now it's on like their hobby. They had the
They're
careers, they've retired.
Yeah.
It's their hobbies that keep them interested in learning the new stuff. But for those that they're actually teaching hands-on,
Yeah.
it is all about getting you ready for your
Yeah.
Okay.
apprenticeship
Yeah.
and in
Okay.
the trade.
I mean,
Good,
exposure
because
to
I
that
did not
STEM.
get that.
Yeah, no,
kinda like
because
a
I
BOCES.
remember
It's like a
thinking
travel STEM.
Yeah.
it sounded
They're
like
trailers.
BOCES to me. It sounded like what, or, North High School
Yeah.
used to be the
Yeah.
tech high school.
Like
I
vocational.
I got that feeling from
I
him.
did not get that.
So if that's the case, can we leave that number?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
What are we gonna do about 300 and what?
300.
$327.60. You don't have to put it in service programs. You can put it somewhere else, like capital programs or salaries or anything else, but it's up to you guys.
Anybody feel strongly about giving $300 to some worthy cause here?
I think that wherever we put it, we should put it into something that we're already funding. I think like
No,
that.
that's what I.
Oh, okay.
In this column,
Yeah,
is there-
yeah, just
Is
like.
there
just
anybody
300
that we feel
75.
strongly about that could get another $300?
The only ones that are not getting the full amounts, according to you guys, will be the ACA and Vines.
So we want to give it to ACA? Is
Yeah.
that okay?
Good.
Okay. Yes.
I wonder if they ever realize when they look at these budgets that they're everyone else is getting 5, 10, 8, and then you're like, you get $8,432.08. You're like,
I
you
think the
guys put it on
60
the
cents will
end.
be the thing that, makes them question what we've done.
All right, let me just see if that made it and it's below public service cap. All right, so here's this before we do a rundown. Let's now speak your minds. Pull out the knives, start fighting. Is this going to be the numbers you guys want to go with?
I don't think we want to fight. I think we're happy. Are we happy? No, that was a session of enlightenment, okay? Yes, okay. Now this, considering I thought this was gonna be a lot harder, guys. Because I think without even talking about it, we kind of just, we went with the programs that probably have the most impact in the community. And that would be what I would argue when I go to city council. Is that we feel that these programs make the most of the money that we get. Any other thoughts?
Marianne, I like that idea because in past, we've scattered the money a bit, and I think this particular, obviously, there's, each one of us probably could fund police academy. But I like the idea, that we're giving more impact, more bang for the buck in our, because you and I know, and the committee will know that this is our recommendation. And I
Right.
know you'll fight for us, but knowing, well, there's two other bodies to
Right.
take a look at this.
But we've had this discussion for a long time. I mean, I've been on the CDAC for quite a while, and it's always been, do we fund everybody? Give them a little bit, or do we give everybody what they need to do the work, and then programs that we're not really sure of, we don't fund at all. And I think tonight, this actually happened, which I think is a great thing. Because we are funding the programs that we know are effective. And that would be my argument to both city council and the mayor, is that these programs are effective. So with that, are we done? We need to make that.
We have to vote on them. We
Right.
can, do you want to vote on individual grants or do you want to vote on the overall budget?
I think if we are all in agreement, everybody's aware of everything that we've recommended, we can vote on the whole thing.
So I'm gonna, before you guys vote, I know we probably want to get out of here, but I want to make sure we're very specific on everything. So I'm gonna go to the ESG services first. This is the current recommendation for ESG services. This is the copy of what the COC recommended. Yeah, see, I hate these things. Oh, too far apart. Yeah, okay. So you guys are gonna use the full 60% for the capped programs. It's just base salary. It's essentially a percentage of the base salary for each agency. And I forget what the actual number was, like 60% or something. Oh, it's not even in here. But there's a percentage of their base salaries that are going to be recommended or that you guys are approving. And then the full 40% of the FIN stuff is going to be 64308, which is higher than they requested, but they always say they can use it. So that's ESG. So just base salaries for all the other emergency shelter groups, including street outreach from the Y, and then a ton of money for FEN for their rapid rehousing or their homelessness prevention program. That's that. Home.
And Stephen, if I may stop you, I promised two little boys who live around the corner from me that I would tell all of you that they feel very, very strongly about homeless people. And I gave them $5 each to do. One drew a picture of my dog and the other one actually cleaned up the neighbor's yard for them. And they went out and bought supplies for the homeless. And I told Alden and Sampson that I would mention them because they did that. So
Do you mind if I mention that at the next COC meeting I go to?
absolutely.
Okay.
Because, seriously, when you talk about FEN getting more money than it, asked for, that's why. Because even Alden and Sampson know that there's a need out there.
The next up,
My dog, he left the ears off. There's no ears on my dog.
so next up will be the
Sorry,
home
Steve.
grant. So including the program income, you guys are putting pretty much a copy of last year's for salaries. And then you pretty much are gonna do a reverse of what the mayor had recommended last year. It's kind of funny there. I just realized that it's like an inverse.
Exactly.
Almost $450,000 into rehab projects, and then about $150,000 into Choto projects. I can tell you that we still have a lot of Choto money in our budgets that haven't been spent yet.
Well,
That we are going to
and
be
when I go
spending.
to city council, I'm going to reiterate that our conversation when we talked about this is we think that home ownership, single houses, rehab is important. And that's why we recommend this very, very strongly, because we all live in neighborhoods that can use it. Okay.
Okay, then going up before I go to the finer tuned ones. 141,000 for admin salaries, nothing for fair housing, 22,000 for general planning. Again, the salaries were still a little weird on because of issues, but we'll hopefully when the mayor gets his budget, I'll have a little bit more specific numbers.
Do you
Uh,
think that's going to impact our recommendations much?
It depends.
Okay, you,
If the salary's high, I mean, the salaries are paid regardless. How
right,
much is eligible is the number that is always a question,
right, okay.
because it's always an estimate of how much people will do. BLDC, you're putting $164,000 into them. That's a very reasonable number. Let's see here, $74,000 for additional salaries for housing staff. Cool $250,000 for code enforcement to match similar ones from previous years. You're gonna let the PI drive the home purchase assistance and repairs. That can be both rehab money and also home purchase, but we are thinking about increasing the amount of money we may allow for the home purchase program from 5 to 10. Right now, we're in competition. It sounds weird to say that, but we're in competition with a program I think First Word's running, where they're providing like $10,000 in closing costs. So if someone's going through the Metro Interfaith program, they're like, all right, I want to get money to help buy a house. I get 5 from the city or 10 from First Ward. They're going to go with First Ward. So not that it's a competition. Yeah, a little bit back into lead and asbestos risk assessment, about 5,000. That actually should balance well with the money you're putting into the rehab. Match of last year, $85,000 for the senior housing repair program. The mayor's recommendation, $200,000 in demolition blight removal. $20,000 to match this year's, which was an increase from previous years because they stayed at $60,000 for years and years and years. But $20,000 for Binghamton Homeownership Academy, done by Metro Interfaith. Going to projects. Fully funding Broome County Council Churches Ramp Up program for their $20,000 request. Fully funding the Roberson Museum's energy efficiency and safety upgrades for $12,000. For SEPS, Hamilton House parking, only putting $6,000 in, and that's specifically for the ramps only. Mayor's set in stone, $100,000 for the Tubman Center Freedom Trail project, $75,000 for the First Ward Senior Center floors, $60,000 for Valley Street Park ball field. It looks like that's the $154,015 for what the DPW recommended for the streets that they wanted to do. Then $138,441 for parks projects to match last year's or this year's technically, with a strong push for doing Columbus Park's playground flooring revamp, which may be something I think Pat may be doing already. All right, service programs. Oh, sorry. I'll just do this. Achieve $10,000 for their summer rec program, up from last year. Action Rural Persons, $20,000 for their senior health insurance counseling program, up from last year. American Civic Association, roughly last year's $10,327.60. Binghamton Adult Education, a match to last year's $12,000. Binghamton Housing Authority Summer and After School Program, up to $20,000 from $12,000 of last year. The Mayor's Set in Stone After Hours Teen Program, $50,000. The Teen Center, $20,000, and the Summer Program fee, $19,975 for the Boys and Girls Club of Binghamton. The Mayor's Set in Stone Cares Backpack Program of $10,000. Park Rangers, you guys are recommending $10,000 to match last year's funding. Mothers and Babies Perinatal Network, PAL Family Resource Center, $20,000, which is up from last year's of $15,000. Then finally, Vines Grow Binghamton program, $15,000, which is up from $10,000 last year. That is the budget you guys have worked out. And so far, all the stuff looks kosher. Yep, all the numbers are fitting. So that's where you guys are at.
Okay, so with that in mind, Deb moves to approve this recommendation.
I do.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay,
Who you acknowledging on that one?
I'm sorry.
Who are you acknowledging on the second?
The guy on the guy in the end there. Our
Okay.
resident concrete expert. Who wants to take over the chair?
Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 9. Okay, there are 9
Okay,
people here. All right,
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No abstentions. It is passed.
it is
Okay,
passed.
these are the recommendations I will take. And if you have any other things that you want me to talk, because I've made, as you can see, I've made lists of the specific talking points as we've gone along. But if there's anything else, please let me know and I will make sure that the city council hears that as well.
Do you know when you go? Or up
Sometime next month, I think, no?
next month? Okay.
It'll probably be so there's a city council meeting Monday, I believe. And it's too late to get on the agenda for that, so it'll be the meeting after that. So probably the first city
meeting in
council
May.
meeting in May. In the meantime, I'll pass this on to the mayor's office so they can start working on their budget, because they'll have to present it ASAP. Hold on, you guys distracted me. I'll just make it sure. Oh, no, it didn't say. No, I'm just kidding. I almost did that last week. I almost came. I was like, yeah, I don't need to say, whoa, those are the numbers.
If that were to happen, you just keep running because we'd all be chasing you.
Yeah.
And we have chicken bones to throw at. you
Yeah, I
after.
could just watch the video. That would be the easiest way of doing it.
I do want to say, guys, I really commend you. This has been one of the most pleasant experiences. And I think one of the most effective. So thank you. Oh, absolutely. Uh-huh. Oh, yeah, yeah. Almost came to fisticuffs at points,
I
yeah.
feel like even last year, our discussion over that was far more vivid, challenging,
Yeah. Yeah, no,
up and down, moving,
this has
shuffling
been-
money.
This has been smooth, man. It really has. I'm sorry? Yeah, yes, we will. Okay. Yes, can we take our final attendance and then I will ask for a motion to adjourn, okay? Beginning with John,
John Brunzo, mayoral appointee.
Justin McGregor, 7th District Secretary.
Kenya Middleton, Vice Chair, Mayor Appointee.
Mary Ann Callahan, First District.
Michelle O'Loughlin, 5th District.
Marilyn Austin, 6th District.
Dawn Sakoni, 2nd District.
Jacob Kumban, Council at Large.
Deborah Hogan, Mayoral Appointee.
May I have a motion to adjourn? Michelle makes the
I'll
motion
second.
and Justin seconds. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, guys. See you in the fall.